Welcome back and thank you very much for joining me. My name is Swadik Mayanja and I am Q the Nurse, and on this channel I bring you news, current events, fun topics for nurses everywhere. And guess what? Guess who? Guess when? It is Nurses Week. Congratulations. This is a big week for me. This is a big week for you nurses out there. And show some love if you ain't a nurse. Show us some love. But I'm bringing you some news, so let's get that out the way. Let's jump right on in.
You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
So speaking about nurses, and this is Nurses Week, and my past videos, if you have been keeping up, and you most definitely should be keeping up, I went to Washington, D.C., and in Washington, D.C., we went to the Nurses Take D.C. rally, which was all about, yes, you guessed it, safe patient limits. 77% of nurses across the country all agree that patient limits are unsafe for quality care, for nurses to do their job correctly. But that is 77%. That is not 100%. Although I'm part of that 77%, I do want to make it known that they are nurses, that they are healthcare providers that are not 100% behind this bill. So let me give them their fair shot, and let's put their point of view out there so you just know what's going on. And the nurse we're talking about comes from my home state of Massachusetts. So, the Massachusetts Nurses Association is pushing hard for a law setting minimum staffing levels in hospitals, but at least one local nurse is speaking out against it. That local nurse is Meghan Aldrich, a nurse at Sturdy Memorial Hospital in Attleboro, which, by the way, is where I did my labor and delivery clinical. Love that hospital, fabulous place. She registered her opposition Monday at a public hearing held by Legislature Joint Committee on Public Health at the Statehouse. She said at her hearing, "Simply having less patients doesn't make me a better nurse." She continues by saying these ratios would override our professional judgment. And I can see where she's coming from. I hear you, Megan. I understand why you feel the way you feel, but I'm in the camp. It sounds to me like your argument is safe patient ratios or healthcare provider nurse professional judgment. I'm in the camp of and, right? I believe that we need both the safe patient ratios and our professional judgment. And when I go to work, there is no set limits where I work. We are not unionized. And yes, I do live in Massachusetts. But we do 90% of what we do is based on professional judgment, right? So our charge nurse knows all the patients on the unit, and they will decide what would be a fair a fair assignment for each nurse. When I go to work, it's not you just have patients room 1 through 4 and those are your patients. You don't have patients 1 through 6 and those are your patients. Nope. I'll go into work, I'll have patients in room 2, room 36, room 27, and room 15. Reason? Because their acuity levels all are at a certain level where if I have the 4 of them, I will be a successful nurse for that day. Yes. Professional judgment, I would say, is more important than just having a number and saying that this is the set number. You can't have more, you can't have less. That is ridiculousness. If that was what we were working for, if that was what the Nurses Association was pushing, I would agree with you, but that's not what they're saying. They're saying let's have a limit to how many patients you can have, and then once that limit is set, you do your charge nurse, your unit, your supervisor, you guys use your professional decision making to make the judgment, right? That's at least how I believe. And I just wanted to put that out there. I am all for it. And let me just give you a little bit of context before I end this. So this issue has pitted the Nurses Association against Massachusetts Health and Hospital Association. The two groups have been competing studies supporting their positions. So the hospitals have a study saying that the mandate would increase costs by nearly $1 billion a year statewide. The nurses say their survey found 77% of nurses say they have too many patients to give careful care. So how are we looking at this? The hospital are saying this is going to cost $1 billion every single year, and that makes sense. If you have a limit to how many patients a nurse can have, that ultimately leads to hiring more nurses. Nurses are not cheap. Nurses are expensive, but nurses are necessary. And nurses that do correct high quality care for their patients is necessary. Yes, the $1 billion is a huge hit, but I am in the camp that preventative care, that quality care, at the end of quality care, leads to a healthier lifestyle for all patients and nurses alike. Which would lower the cost of healthcare dramatically. Safe patient care coming from nurses equals healthier human beings, which equals less money getting funneled into healthcare. I think in the long run, in the short term, yes, $1 billion a year is extraordinarily high. I think in the long run, though, having safe patient ratios is much cheaper. That is my point of view, but I did want you to hear from the other side. Meghan Aldrich, your voice has been heard. You are an important human being in this conversation. I appreciate you going out and opposing something the majority of your colleagues are pushing forward. I think you're brave for standing up. I do disagree with you, but I'm happy that you took a stand and fought for what you believed in. Moving on now. So, the nurse hero. So this is Nurses Week. And I always talk about the nurse of the week and how special the nurse of the week is. And I also told you last week, and I'm going to remind you this week, the Boston Red Sox are doing a nurse appreciation night next week, May 15th, and it is for us nurses. So if you're a nurse, you live in Massachusetts, you're in Boston, you live in New England, come on down on May 15th to the Boston Red Sox game. They are going to have a nurse hero, which I'm going to tell you who that is, do the first pitch, which is exciting, as long as they're going to be putting the spotlight on 10 nurses, all right? So this year for the Boston Red Sox Nurse Appreciation Night, Nurse.org and the Red Sox will recognize 10 remarkable nurses during the pregame ceremony at Fenway Park. So they're going to put the spotlight on 10 of the remarkable nurses, right? If you're going to go on, if you went last week, if you watched my Red Sox Hero Contest video last week, you were supposed to vote for one of the nurses, and everyone put in their votes, and they finally found the winner of who the nominee is going to be. And that winner, the winner of the Red Sox Hero Contest for this year, 2018, is Jeffrey Ballard. He is a former veteran, and he is currently still a nurse after he came back from his deployment, after he finished serving for our country. I'm going to give you a little bit about his background. He's an absolutely amazing human being. I do plan on going to the game and hopefully, cross my fingers, get him on camera, but you nurses need to come to the game. I'll have my camera on, I'll have my Red Sox scrubs on, and we are going to have a good old time. I know a few people who are going, and I can't wait to see you there. So, it's not about me. This is not about the Red Sox. It is about the Red Sox. It's about us. It's about all of us. But let's put that spotlight on Jeffrey right now and give you a little bit of his background. So Jeffrey has been a member of the Army National Guard for nearly 20 years. Just a few months after getting married in 2009, he deployed to Afghanistan. He served as an infantry medic and was injured while serving in combat. After several surgeries and months of physical therapy, Jeff was able to return to bedside nursing after being home for 14 months. He had returned to the emergency department where he had always worked before deployment. Sadly, because of Jeff's emotional injuries and PTSD, returning to the emergency department almost destroyed him. Every day was a constant trigger for his PTSD, and he ended up leaving the ED after less than a year. It doesn't end there. Jeff was nominated by his wife, who at the time clearly saw the pain he was in, both physically and mentally. Jeff was lost, and his wife felt helpless. She could only offer him support and understanding. What saved Jeff and made him an amazing nurse again was beginning work as a nurse at the Department of Veteran Affairs. Good for you, my good friend. Jeff has been with the VA for nearly 5 years now and has flourished there. While all nurses are compassionate and go above and beyond, his wife says that Jeff and his dedication to his patients and fellow nurses is one of a kind, and I agree. Jeff, thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you are doing today. You clearly deserve to be recognized as the Red Sox Nurse Hero of the Night. Congratulations. I can't wait to see you. You are the goddamn nurse of next week. This is the first time I preemptively announce a Nurse of the Week hero. That you are the Nurse of the Week next week, but you are the kind of nurse we all hope to be every single day. Thank you for what you've done for the country. Thank you for what you're doing right now for the community in which you live for. And I know the veterans that return. It's one thing to have a nurse come in and take care of these veterans, but it's a whole nother thing to have an actual veteran who served, who went through the horrors of being deployed, of being in the army, of giving their life for their country. A veteran returns and seeing another veteran give them care. Number one, you are actually giving them care. You are actually putting health back into their life. But on top of that, you're giving them hope. They look at you sitting in the bed, in the patient's bed. They say, look, this is a veteran. He has come through. He has been through what I am doing, and he's doing things more. He's doing more and bigger and better things. And I hope. I'm just happy. I'm just a happy man. I'm grateful, and I'm excited for next week. I can't wait to see you. Congratulations, and I hope to shake your hand. So there was a nationwide study that found that Americans at large are lonely human beings. Yes, we are considered lonely. They did a study, a nationwide study, and they found that Americans, especially the younger generation, which is super surprising, are very lonely. Let me get into the details and then we'll talk about it. So, there's a nationwide study, and it was done by Cigna. It found that loneliness is widespread in America, with nearly 50% of its respondents reporting that they feel alone or left out always or sometimes. Using one of the best-known tools for measuring loneliness, the UCLA Loneliness Scale, Cigna surveyed 20,000 adults online across the country. The University of California, Los Angeles tool uses a series of statements and a formula to calculate a loneliness score based on its responses. Score on the UCLA scale ranged from 20 to 80. People scoring 43 and above were considered lonely in the Cigna survey, and with a higher score suggesting a greater level of loneliness or isolation. So more than half of the survey respondents, 54%, said they always or sometimes feel that no one knows them well. 56% reported that they sometimes or always felt like the people around them are not necessarily with them, and 2 in 5 felt like they lack companionship. That their relationships aren't meaningful, and that they are isolated from others. The survey found that the average loneliness score in America is 44, which suggests that the most of Americans are considered lonely. Remember, that loneliness number is 43, and the average in America is 44. We are slightly lonely, right? Like 43 is you're not lonely, 44 is lonely. I don't know how they made that decision, but that's the decision. Based on the survey and based on the study, right? 44. So we just hit that number. So we're not extremely lonely. At least the average is not extremely lonely, but the average person is or does feel lonely, right? Several studies have documented that the public health effect of loneliness, it has been linked to higher risk of coronary heart disease and stroke. It has been shown to influence our genes and our immune systems, and even recovery from breast cancer. So understand this. Being lonely isn't let's talk about your feelings, I hope you feel better type of nonsense. No, this is actual real health. It affects you, it affects us human beings in a very real way. Coronary heart disease. In my line of work, the number one killer in this country is heart disease. So the fact that loneliness is a risk factor, to getting these diseases, or at least having these diseases be worse off on a person that is lonely than a person that does not feel lonely, is incredible. And it also prevents stroke, and they even went as far as saying breast cancer. This is serious. We don't like to think about mental health, but mental health is a real thing, and it affects our physical health in a huge, huge way. And then this is the most interesting part to me, the difference when you break it up by age. Members of Generation Z, born in between the mid-1990s and the early 2000s, had an overall loneliness score of 48.3. Millennials, just a little bit older, scored 45.3. By comparison, baby boomers scored 42.4. The greatest generation, people ages 72 and above, had a score of 38.6 on the loneliness scale. So let's break this down. Generation Z, 48.3. That is the loneliest compared to the rest of the generations, right? Because 43 is not lonely, 44 is lonely. The higher you are, the more lonely you are. The lower you are, the less lonely you feel. 48.3 is Generation Z, the youngest generation currently. Millennials are 45.3. The baby boomers are 42.4, which makes them not lonely. Baby boomers are less lonely than millennials. And then last but not least, the oldest generation, the 72-year-olds, are 38.6. This blows my mind. Why? Because when you're 72 or older, understand that the most of your friends have passed away. Your parents have passed away. Your siblings are starting to pass away. You are literally more alone the older you get. More people in your life have gone, have passed away. Accidents, sickness, illness. You know this better than I do as nurses. So the fact that they're the least lonely generation in our country, in our society, really surprises me. And the trend continues. The younger you are, the more lonely you feel. Does this have anything to do with our obsessions with cell phones? Well, let's find out. In fact, some researchers published in 2017 at the San Diego State University suggest that more screen time on social media may have caused a rise in depression and suicide among American adolescents. The study also found that the people who spend less time looking at screens and more time having face-to-face social interactions were less likely to be depressive or suicidal. And we have just a little more. This would, on the surface, contradict the new findings on screen time, but they also say that previous research shows that how people use social media determines its influence on one's sense of loneliness or happiness, and that is important. That's the big caveat here, right? It depends on how you are using this, how you are using the loneliness, how you are using the screen that you are using, right? If you are on the phone because that is your version of social interaction, you are going to be more lonely. You are going to consider yourself lonely. You are going to feel as though people don't understand you. If you are using social media to kick off a social interaction, let's make a Facebook group and have parties and events and plan events, that is a good thing. That is you using social media to contact and group with other people and then actually going out to meet these people. If you're swiping on Tinder and having Tinder conversations with your boo, but never meeting up in person, that is why you feel lonely. If you go to Tinder, swipe right, and make plans to meet up, you are not going to feel lonely because you are going to make that social media app is going to help you ignite the relationship with someone, and that will prevent you from being depressed and lonely. This is craziness to me. I think the study is super cool. I'm happy I found it. Just remember, I do believe I'm heavy hardcore on social media. I don't know. I have my days where I feel lonely. I have my days where I feel like people don't understand me. But I don't feel lonely in general. I feel like I have enough reach to go grab people and go out and have fun and do me and party hardy. I just think it's you gotta use social media to start your social interactions. Social media can't be the definition of your social interactions, even though every week I do the Nurse of the Week, and I think it's great, and I love doing the Nurse of the Week. But you guys know Charlemagne the God, how he has Donkey of the Day. You guys know in like the Breakfast Club. You guys know Hot 97, Ebro in the morning. He has his congratulations, you played yourself. I need that for nurses. I need a version of that for nurses, because every week I praise nurses. I think we're awesome, amazing human beings, but there are also insane nurses that do such stupid and ridiculous things that we need to stamp them. There needs to be a stamp, and we need to say the dumbest nurse of the week, or the worst nurse of the week, or the nurse Jackie of the week. I don't know. The crazy nurses that do crazy shit that makes us all look bad. We need to put them on blast so the world knows we are not behind them and we want nothing to do with them. And this nurse has done some crazy things to the community in which she serves. So there's an ER nurse that has exposed thousands of patients to hepatitis C, and officials are checking to see if there's even like the exact number, and they're going to be charging this poor lady. They're going to be charging this horrific nurse for infecting these poor patients. Okay, So officials are urging thousands of patients treated at the hospital in the state of Washington to come get tested for hepatitis C. Amid fears, 2 patients have already contracted the disease from a nurse working in the emergency department. The Multi-Corps Good Samaritan Hospital in Washington warned in a safety alert statement that patients who were treated in the ER between August 4th, 2017 and March 23rd, 2018 could have been exposed to the disease. The hospital is working to alert around 2,600 patients treated with injections of narcotics, antihistamines, or sedatives in the 8th-month period. Following an investigation, the facility local state health departments concluded that the nurse at the hospital tested positive for hepatitis C and had treated both the patients that were infected. The unarmed nurse was taking narcotics intended for patients from the dispensing system. According to the statement, she no longer worked for the institution, which is the obvious congratulations. I mean, that is the number one thing you do. And then finally, the facility is offering free testing of hepatitis C and other communicable diseases for patients at risk, and those infected will receive free treatment. Of course, the hospital said patients who do not receive letters are not in danger. Very, very good. So, sad story, horrific for the patients, scary for the people in the community. This is the kind of shit that makes people doubt, get scared of hospitals, be afraid of nurses, be afraid of healthcare situations. And I get it. I understand it. It's a lot of trust when you put your health in someone else's hand. It is a lot of trust. And I take it it means a lot. It means a lot for the patient to trust the nurse, for the patient to trust their healthcare providers. When shit like this happens, it's scary. It's wrong. It's horrific. This nurse is the worst. I hope they throw the goddamn book at her. Thousands of patients. And I think it's stupid, right? The way she went about it is stupid. Did she really have to inject herself with the narcotics and then go use that same injection to give the patients? I am just so confused at how I am a nurse. I deal with these narcotics all day, every day. The worst way to go about it is to use the same needle for yourself and your patients. I feel like that's literally the worst way. She must have a drug issue, right? There's many ways to take drugs. I know it's wrong, and I don't want anyone to ever do that. But when you do something horrible, like steal narcotics from the hospital, put that shit on yourself. Don't put the health of the patient into it. Leave that shit alone, please. God, if you're addicted, I am sorry, right? Steal all the drugs you want. Steal them. Do your thing. But when you start risking the patients, that's when you start getting into the place where I stop caring about you. I understand that drug addiction is a problem, but when you put other people's lives in danger, I stop the empathy. I stop feeling for you, right? Do your crazy shit, and yes, I'll be all for you. Get the help you need. Get the rehab. Take the whole 9 yards. Don't put you in jail. I am all for that. But when you infect someone else, deuces. I want nothing to do with you. I just don't. Moving on from the negative to the positive, because that's just how I flow. So this week's Nurse of the Week, we talked about Jeffrey, and we're going to see him next week at the Boston Red Sox game along with you. All you nurses in New England, I am going to see you there. But that's not the point. Now we're talking about the Nurse of this week. The Nurse of the Week for Nurses Week. This is a special week. Goes to Rebecca Roma. And let me just give you a little background of our homegirl, right? So our nurse of the week is Rebecca Roma, a floor nurse in the cardiovascular surgical unit at Catholic Medical Center, who used her vacation time to volunteer aboard Mercy Ships, the international charity operations floating hospital that provide free medical care in some of the poorest spots around the world. I love this, right? Because I believe, and I say it every day, and I say it as often as I possibly can, I believe us nurses are everyday heroes. I believe we do amazing things. I also believe we're human beings first before we are nurses. We are human beings as well. So what we need to do is enjoy our time. We have vacation time. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take time off of work and treat yourself. But Rebecca over here said, instead of taking my time off and going to Vegas and going to Cali, going on the beach and relaxing, she's going to take her earned time off. She's going to take time away from work to go volunteer on a ship to give back to people who cannot afford to get healthcare for themselves. I absolutely love this story. Rebecca, you're an amazing person. So about the ship. So the ship was docked in Cameroon, Africa, where the medical personnel performed life-saving surgeries and life-changing treatments on local residents. Volunteers also provide training to local doctors and nurses. Many patients in the region have medical conditions that distort their appearance, and for many, Mercy Ships is the first place they've come where someone welcomes them and takes care of them. In February, she took a leave of absence to serve 8 weeks aboard the ship, using vacation time to pull it all off. Amazing. I'm going to put up some pictures throughout the video of the patients on these Mercy Ships that are taken care of, and it is remarkable. And I think the idea of Mercy Ships, I've only seen their Instagram pictures, and I think it's phenomenal what they do. But the idea is so smart, right? Because you want to give aid to an entire country. You want to give aid to as many people as possible. But right, if you focus all of your aid and you send all of the medical staff to go to, just like, for example, say Cameroon, you put everyone in Cameroon, you build your tents, you build your hospital, state-of-the-art everything in Cameroon. That's great for the people in Cameroon. But what of the rest of the world? What about the rest of the world? So the fact that is, and by the way, fun fact, the majority of human beings, yes, human beings, of 7+ billion of us, live at the coast of whatever country we live in. That's the majority of human beings. So the best way to get to these human beings is just go to the coast. So if you have these Mercy Ships, right, where you have basically a state-of-the-art hospital on a boat, and you go from country to country, from coast to coast, that is so genius, and it's free care, and it's all volunteered. I love the idea of these Mercy Ships. And Rebecca, the fact that you and everyone on board, you're just the name that popped up today, but obviously you're not the only healthcare provider on the ship, obviously. But Rebecca, the fact that you took your time off, you took your paid time off to give back in a way that you do every single day, but in a bigger way because it's for people who would never, ever, ever be able to afford the care that we deliver here in America. I think it's phenomenal. Rebecca, congratulations. And at large, big picture-wise, Mercy Ships. Shout out. I didn't know about you. I just learned about you. But I am happy I know about you now. You guys are absolutely amazing foundation, organization. Continue what you're doing. I absolutely love it. So let's do a little bit of tech news. And I love this. This is from TechCrunch. When I found out about this, I said, this is some innovation that we need, right? The Fitbit adds menstrual cycle tracking to its smartwatch app. This is genius. This is genius. Half of the population of the planet are women, right? And all women have their menstrual cycle. This is life, right? So for Fitbit to add this to one of its health apps, because all of these watches are, the number one thing is fitness. Count your steps, count your, the how high you go everywhere, how far you cycle, with your sleep schedule, all of these crazy things that your watch can do nowadays. The one thing it hasn't been able to do is the menstrual cycle. I don't know what the tech is needed for this to happen, but they finally have figured it out, and I think it's genius. Fitbit announced its new female health tracking feature alongside the Versa. I'll put a picture up so you can see what it is. At an event back in March. The offering is finally starting to roll out on the company's iOS and Windows app, letting users track their menstrual cycle in the space they track their activity and sleep patterns. The feature is available for both of the company's first two smartwatches, the Versa and the Ionic, making it possible to predict a period and keep track of the fertility windows. The offering is a nice addition to Fitbit's overall health tracking after the company was initially criticized for producing a smartwatch that was too large for many wrists, excluding a lot of the female customers. The new smaller Versa addressed this issue with a smaller and more versatile design. So Fitbit said, you know what, I apologize for making these watches, these smartwatches too big, excluding a lot of the female customers. They made it smaller and they added this new tech, this way of keeping track of one's menstrual cycle. This is super important, especially because a lot of the times now, hopefully, we're getting closer to the time where there's actual equality between men and women. We are not there yet. We have a lot of work to do. But a big portion of this is children. Children are a huge reason why there is a huge difference between men and women. And you can look this up. A large part of why there is a pay disparity is because the time when women are most fertile and most able to have children is also the same exact time, which is between their late 20s and into their 30s, is the best time to get the most money out of the workforce, right? And having these two things happen at the same time is hard on the female gender. So allowing this technology so you can track your menstrual cycle, so you can plan to have a child when you want to have a child, when you're ready to have a child, I think is genius. It's super smart. It puts the power back into women's hands. And they don't have to guess and do this and, whether they temperature every 5 minutes and all of these crazy things that people do to measure and keep track of their menstrual cycle. They can do it much easier now. They can have a little more control, which is fantastic, I'm all for it. Congratulations. Goody. Fitbit, smart move. So Amazon, and I did a story a couple of weeks ago where Amazon was trying to get into the insurance companies, right? They want to start their own insurance company because they sell everything. Why not start selling medications, right? But this is different. Amazon now is asking to take a 3D picture of your body so they can deliver you the correct size clothing that you want. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm a bit excited. I love shopping online. But I hate shopping for clothing online because every goddamn manufacturer has a different size, and I have to break out the freaking tape measurer to measure my waist and to measure my leg, and just so we can just find a goddamn pair of pants that would fit me on Amazon. It's impossible. It's hard. We all love shopping online, but you can never try things online, right? Until it gets here, and then returning it is a whole mess of things. So here, Amazon is coming to save the day. The new endeavor seems to come as a part of Amazon when Amazon recently acquired the computer vision startup Body Labs and the company's subsequent development of a 3D body scanning team. The idea, it would appear, is for Amazon to be able to help you find a pair of pants that fits you perfectly. Oh, I hope so. Or aid customers in visualizing exactly how a dress might suit a particular body type. This could reduce the number of returns that Amazon has to process, which is always a risk when dealing with the online shopping. I love this. I love this idea immensely, right? You put up your pictures online all day, every day, on Insta, Facebook, Snapchat, the whole nine, right? Everyone already knows how we look. Already. That is not something that I am, afraid of. A little bit of bias. I'm in front of the camera right now. That is my own situation. But I believe, Amazon looking at my body and taking a 3D scan of what I am so they can give me the perfect size pants and I don't have to do all this measuring all day, every day. I am all for it. Yes, there's invasion of privacy questions. I understand people's doubt with Facebook's huge, court hearing this past month. I'm not saying this is for everyone, and I'm not saying you're prude or whatever if you aren't for this, but I am saying this is a smart move by Amazon. I think it's a great place to go. I'm all for it. I'm signing up. Take my picture. Send me the pants I want. I hate going to the goddamn mall. It takes too much time. Amazon, I'm all for it. Let me know in the comment section below. Are you guys down for this? Are you going to let Amazon take a picture of you, your 3D picture, so they can send you the perfect size clothing? Or you can just go online and put some clothing on yourself and say, ooh, that's what I would look like. I like it. I like the idea. I've got a couple of lists for you, and then I'm going to ask you for your money. So let's get down to these lists. And I love this. And I haven't talked to my friends on Reddit in a little bit, but I am back. I am back in a big way. And this is a crazy top 6. The top 6 crazy things healthcare providers, nurses, and healthcare providers at large have found in people's orifices. This is always scary. A lot of butthole action here, so disclaimer, warning, advice. This is not the easiest topic to talk about, but God damn it is insightful to find the crazy things us healthcare providers have to remove from these human beings. Alright, starting with number 1. Underscore Stamos says, once had a patient in our trauma unit who had been shot. It was in the leg, nothing serious. As part of our standard assessment, we had to undress him and rolled him to ensure that there were no wounds on his back. But wait, what is this plastic stuff between his legs? Without thinking, I grabbed it and pulled out. Out comes a Ziploc bag full of crack rocks. Immediately, as I'm dislodging the drugs from his dude's anus, he yells, "It's not mine." Well, of course it's not yours, right? Someone else put the crack rock in your anus. Someone else did that. And you just willingly stood there, got shot, and now you are at the hospital hoping for the best. This is craziness. This is insanity. Maybe it wasn't his. He knew he was coming to the hospital and he shoved it in there because he was the delivery man. Who goddamn knows? All I know that this is crazy. Moving on. And I love this one. Just a new grad nurse here, but during my clinical rotation, pennies from the vagina. That is all that is said. That is all that they gave us. No background story, no what happened after, nothing. Just straight to the point, pennies in the vagina. I don't know, maybe she didn't have a purse. Who goddamn knows? This is insane to me. Moving on, the little signal. They say, CNA here, we had to send a resident out once because she shoved her phone up her vagina. Oh, my goodness. I don't know what the self-reception down there is, but we checked on her because her daughter called us asking to because she thought she had fallen due to her abruptly ceasing to talk during their phone call. Well, that's one way to end a phone call. She was very frustrated and she wanted no one else to talk to her daughter, so she put her phone in the vagina. People are insane. People are insane. Moving on, the terrible Detective 45 says, I think it may be from a book, The Emergency, or from a student doctor forum. A guy came into the ER with a ketchup bottle in his ass. But that's not the best part. The story is always the best part. He claimed that it got up there because he went to the grocery store and discovered it. When he came back home, he lost his keys. He saw that the second story window above from the front door was open and he tried to climb up into it. He lost his grip and fell onto the grocery bag he left on the doorstep. He didn't have an explanation for how he perfectly landed just on top of the ketchup bottle and his pants and underwear came off during the fall. Nice try, sir. Horrible. Horrible. This is sad. Of course this is not true. So you're saying while you're climbing up, you decided to climb up with no pants on? Or while you were up there, you took your pants off? Or while you were falling down, your pants and underwear just slipped on off and you fell right on top of the ketchup bottle? Whatever it is, it's a bullshit excuse. But this is a story, my friend. I am sorry, but god damn it. How? Why? To each his own. When it comes to these sexual activities, to each his own. Just be safe. Please and thank you. Number 5. CNA training here. My instructor, who is a nurse, once pulled a very large chicken leg out of a woman's vagina. Ladies, what in the goddamn world are we doing here? I thought us men were crazy. But going through this list on Reddit, I found a lot of things in vaginas. Us men do a lot of anal excitement here. But there was a ton of vaginas. And a chicken leg. Are you saving it for later? What's going on? It's a little marination. Oh, God. Jesus, Lord. Oh, thank God I'm a vegan, right? Moving on. Last but not least, not a nurse, but when I was doing my clinical rounds, we were intubating a homeless woman in the ER as we were getting her set up on the vent. I overheard the nurse who was cleaning and changing her into a hospital gown and about to put in the Foley catheter step back in horror and say, "Oh my God, no, 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 no." And when we all turned to see what she was freaking out about, she had just pulled out a pair of keys out of this woman's vagina, and with it came a bunch of maggots. That is just... like I said, things going up people's orifices is a scary thing. Pulling them out is a scary thing. But when you pull out a pair of keys, first of all, keys, we all have keys. Keys are not the easiest thing to keep in a human orifice, right? It's pokey. It's a painful, it sounds very painful. But the worst part is, yes, the keys are a horrific thing, right? But a chicken leg is also a horrific thing to put in a vagina. But the worst part, when they pulled out the keys, the maggots, that is just, when you have other organisms living inside of you, that just, goodness gracious. I'll just end it there. Keep going on would be horrific, would be painful. Those are the 6 craziest things I have found on Reddit. Let me know your horror stories in the comment section below. This is insanity. Which do you think was the worst? And tell me if you have a story of something crazy you've pulled out, or you've heard of another nurse pulling out of a patient. Sad world we live in. Crazy world we live in. All right. So my helpful tips this week comes from nurse.org, and these 10 tips are for new nurses and how for them to make work better. I love this list because being a new nurse at the hospital that I just came into, the new hospital that I work at, I'm finally getting to the place where I feel comfortable. But being a new nurse, even as like a brand new spanking new nurse coming from nursing school, is super hard. And even just being a nurse new to a new unit, to a new hospital, to a new job. So this list is for all of you nurses that got a new job, all of you nurses that just graduated nursing school, and you are starting out at a new place. These are the 10 ways to make you much more comfortable and get you ready to be a kick-ass nurse on a kick-ass team. Starting with number 1, don't be a wallflower. Introduce yourself to all of your healthcare friends. I know when you're in the hospital, when you're at any place where they're taking care of people, right? It is super hectic. There's people running at 1,000,000 miles an hour all day 24/7. Everyone's busy. There's someone in pain. There's someone hurting. There's a surgery that's happening. There's a million things going on, right? And there's a million different people. All these residents, these doctors, these therapists, these nurses, these aides, everyone is running, right? But don't be a wallflower. Introduce yourself as often as you can, and if you do it twice because you forgot, apologize, but be kind. Just be just generous. Just introduce yourself, because I promise you it will be better for you in the long run. When people recognize you, that's the nurse that took 5 seconds out of their time to say hello and introduce themselves. I will remember that nurse. That's tip number 1. Number 2, have a go-to crew. This one is tip number 2, and I agree with nurse.org, but I feel like they just talk about this like it's an easy thing to obtain. I feel like this is the hardest part, right? This should probably like be number 10 for me, right? But they say, as you start to make acquaintances on the unit after introducing yourself, you will inevitably meet people with whom you click with right away. Try to find at least one nurse or one doctor and another team member, and who are most eager to guide you. And use them as often as possible. And when I say use, yes, I mean use it, like extract knowledge from them, ask them for advice and all that stuff. But when I say use, I also mean mutually use. So you use them, they use you, and it's a team. And that's how teams work. You use each other for the same goal, right? But the reason I say that this is hard, it's because it's easy to introduce yourself. It's easier to introduce yourself than compared to making a friend and having that person be a go-to person and, clicking, so you at least have that person's back, someone to vent to, someone you can go to at all times of the day. It's hard to do that, but once you find that person, once you find those people, stick to them, give them a hug, give them a high five, bring them some coffee, do something to make them happy with you, because they mean a lot to me as a nurse. When I have that person I go to, it means a lot to me. It just means a lot to you. And trust me, you will need this person in your near future. Number 3, and this is a gimme, ask questions. Don't stop asking questions. Ask questions all day, every day. It's the best way to get through your work. Number 4, you can cheat now. When I say cheat, I mean compared to nursing school. Specifically for nurses who are coming out of nursing school. In nursing school, you're told to memorize the mechanism of action of all these drugs, the steps in the treatment when you're in the simulation lab. And it's important because you want to have a basic understanding of most of these things. But when you have a question, and even if you think you know something, and there's one step in the procedure you're not sure about, pull it up. You're not a better nurse if you have the policy next to you versus if you don't have the policy next to you. The only way you measure a good nurse is if the end result is better. Are your patients healthier at the end of the day? Did you do all you can to make your patients healthier? If that is, you're the smartest human being on the planet, you memorized every policy in the history of the world, you know every med, you've done all your education, good for you. But that doesn't make you any better than the nurse who needed the instructions for every policy, every procedure she did, and every med that she gave, she printed out the education list. Neither of those two nurses are better than the other. You can cheat now. Go get the information when you need the information. Don't try to be a hero. You are a hero for doing your job, but don't try to be a hero and do it off the dome. Leave that to the rappers. Number 5. You are your most important patient. We love to take care of patients. We love to do our patient education. We love to tell our patients what to do, how to do it, and the best way to do it. But we forget to take that advice for ourselves and take it home and treat ourselves. Get the sleep you need. Treat yourself. Make sure you have your lunch. Make sure you take a snack throughout the day. A 12-hour shift is a long time. 12-hour shift, you should be having 2 meals at the very least within that time. You should be having a snack. You should be drinking your water. Use those TED stockings. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that your health is at peak level. You stay healthy, because the healthier you are, the healthier your patients are. The longer you last at the bedside, the longer you'll be a healthier and a happier person. That is very important. Number 6, talk the talk. But listen, we're all started somewhere. And this has happened to every nurse I've ever talked to. When you get a report from another nurse, tell them, I don't know what CBC means. Yes, they might be like, oh, this is complete blood count, right? They might laugh, and they might, but it's never been a situation where someone laughs. If you don't know, make sure it's known. If you don't know and you don't want to ask, underline it, circle it, go to the computer and look it up, right? Make sure you know what's going on. And for the best way for you to give report, stick with SBAR, right? You learn it in nursing school, situation, background, assessment, recommendation. Stick with that when you're talking to any healthcare provider, when you're giving report to anyone else, when you're even talking about a situation to a patient. You can use SBAR a lot of the times, and it's super helpful because it's concise and you have a way to organize your thoughts and the things that are on the paper. Use a situated format until you figure out your own personal style of report and talking about patients and situations. I think that's some useful advice. This is something my personal self have to work on a lot more. Number 7, work on your poker face. Simple, straight to the point. When something horrible is happening in the patient's room, when a bad situation, when a patient falls down, when something is happening, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy that has that crazy face and you're screaming and you're crying and you're cheering up. Yes, we are human beings, like I say all the time. We are allowed to have emotions. But don't be the emotional one where other nurses need to take care of you when the patient's still hurting. Don't be that emotional or that crazy where the family needs to take care of you instead of taking care of the patient. You need to be the rock for the patient and the patient's family. When shit hits the fan, yes, take a minute, go to the break room, go to the bathroom, cry your eyeballs out. Take the time you need to take care of yourself so you can give to the patient. But don't do this in front of the patient, and don't take away from the patient's care. Please, please, please. You got to get that poker face situated. Once you leave the room, once you leave the area, you can bawl, cry, vent, scream, whatever. But take care of yourself so the patient isn't more afraid and worse off where people have to take care of you instead of the patient. Don't take anything away from the patient. Number 8, up close and personal. Understand when patients get upset, when family members get upset, they're going to yell, scream, throw rocks at you, cuss at you, the whole goddamn 9. Do not take it personal. You're not that special. You are special for taking care of them, but you're not that special. This is the worst time of the patient's life. Remember, this is not about you. This is about them and the situation that they're in, and you're just the person that they are able to lash out at because you're the person there. It's not because you are you. It's because you were there taking care of them at the worst time of their lives. Number 9, time flies when you're a nurse. That's just a fact. You're a nurse. You go to work, you work a 12-hour shift. In the beginning, you're doing your morning med patch, taking everyone in the bathroom, you're washing people up, you're doing all of your morning tasks. By the time you look at your clock, it's already noon. You eat lunch, you come back, people need their lunchtime sugars. People need to, go for a walk around the building. You need to get your admission. You do your discharges. You look at your watch, it's already 4:30, 5 o'clock. You're already doing your night medications. You're doing your insulins again for dinner. You're passing out trays, you're collecting, you're getting people ready for bed. You look at your watch again and it's time to go home. That's how most days work when it's, crazy, regular, nursing, crazy schedule. By the time you look at your watch, time flies. I'm only saying this to remind you that time flies because you need to be organized. You need to prioritize. You need to make sure that all of these things are in line so your patients have the best outcome at the end, right? You want to make sure that you prioritize your day so you get shit done and you're not just always flapping from one task to another task to another task. You want to turn into the patient's room. This is something everyone can always get better at, but just a quick reminder. Helpful tip number 10, please, 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 and I beg of you, enjoy your job. Enjoy it. Take it in. Being a nurse is a special thing. We are the most trusted profession in the world, at least in America, where we've had the survey done for the past decade. We have been number one every single time. We are the most trusted profession. People respect nurses. Being a nurse, the profession of nursing, is a respectable profession. And on top of that, if you work 12-hour shifts, you have 4 days off. On top of that, you enjoy your days off. On top of that, finding a job is not that difficult unless you fuck up in a crazy way. These are the perks we get as nurses. So enjoy your job. Be a nurse, be proud, and smile throughout your day. So let me just go through these 10 tips real quick. Number 1, don't be a wallflower. Introduce yourself to all your people. Number 2, have a go-to crew. Find that bestie, your work wife, your work hubby, whatever. Find that person, stick to that person, and hang out. Number 3, ask all the questions in the world. Number 4, you can cheat. Make sure you get what you need. The procedures, the policy, the education. Print it all out. Have it all with you. Number 5, you are your most important patient. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Number 6, talk to talk. SPAR is definitely a way to go. Number 7, use your poker face. Do not be the guy, the gal who screams in a patient room. Go do that on your own time. Go do that in the break room. Number 8, don't forget when patients get personal, it ain't about you. It is never about you. Number 9, do your work, prioritize, because by the time you look at your watch, you are going to have to give report to the next nurse. And last but not least, enjoy being a nurse. Be a nurse and be proud of it, because I am proud of you. I promised you guys that I was going to ask you for your money, and here I am asking you for your money. So, in September 8th, 2018, there will be a heart walk. Join me and a couple of my nursing buddies. If you didn't know, I work at on a cardiovascular unit. So this means a lot to me, right? I see every single day patients come in with heart attacks, with chest pains, patients that need pacemakers, patients that just got ablations, stents, the cabbage, the whole goddamn nine. Anything and everything to treat these heart conditions, anything and everything to prevent any of these heart conditions to affect their lives moving forward. And how can you help me? If you're not a nurse, if you're a nurse, if you work in anywhere in the world, we all know in America the number one killer is heart disease. That is the number one killer of Americans. Your fellow Americans, citizens, people, the people across the goddamn world. So let's help me help the world and donate to the group. Donate to the Heart Walk. Let me give you some context, and then the link is going to be in the description box below. Please click it. At least check it out. If you don't want to give to me, at least give to the team. There's some other great nurses, part of the team, that are doing amazing stuff, and they're going to be at the Heart Walk. So just getting it out there. September 8th, 2018. Join nearly 1 million Americans at 305 events across the country to build healthier lives. Free of cardiovascular disease and stroke. This is amazing. I used to work at a stroke unit at the rehab hospital that I used to work at. This is like my whole world coming into one, saving all of the people I've been taking care of since I become a nurse. Join me. This is a great way to give back. All right, so the Boston Heart Walk is the American Heart Association's premier event in the greater Boston area, bringing together about 8,000 people from the community each year. The event raises money to fund cardiovascular research and education and advocate for health and save lives. That's all I need to hear. That is all I need to hear. It's a phenomenal thing. It's the number one killer, so we need number one heroes. We need superstars that are able to give the very little that they can give. Please do so. Please do so. You'd be helping out in a huge way, right? Research, education, and just promotion to advocate for healthier lives. I think you should join the team. If you can't join the team and raise money with me, at least donate the very little you can. And if you can't do that, if you're not willing or you don't have the money to donate, at least join us on September 8th if you're in the Boston, New England area. Come join the walk. Come join me. I'll be with my camera. I'll be recording people per usual so I can shine the light on these amazing human beings that are conquering this disease, that are funding the research, the people that are actually doing the research, and everyone in between. Come join me and my nursing buddies who are raising money. Donate the very little you can. Thank you for doing so. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys later. Deuces.